And welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. On today's episode, I want to do something a little bit different and just go live and do a video that I would normally do just normally on my channel. Uh, so, in today's video, I just wanted to talk because right now it looks like we're seeing a lot of potential entry points for modern. And it's always been the conversation of, let's talk about the modern collector versus the modern investor. And I think in 2020 we really saw those two words really like diverge a lot. So you definitely had like more the collector mindset versus like, the rocket emoji mindset where everything was going to go to the moon kind of thing. So now that we're starting to really truly see price retraces, and not only are we seeing price retraces, really we're seeing price retracing to points we thought were gone. We thought they were a thing of the past and they were never going to come back. But that's not really what we're seeing. We're seeing battle styles booster boxes shipped at 83. We're seeing Chillin' Rain at 95. We're seeing Evolving Skies at 100. And, even like the newest set Fusion Strike, we're probably going to see that, retrace around the $100 mark pretty fast. And if not, we're probably already starting to see that happen. So now we have all these booster boxes and all this super modern product really retraced to a lot of levels that as a collector, I would say collectors might see a lot of these entry points and start to look at them and saying, okay, what is my downside from a lot of these, prices? Because when you're the investor, I think you look at prices and you say, okay, well, what is the upside to this? And very rarely in this hobby do we ever see the investor look at prices and say, well, how far can I actually retrace from this? But as a collector, you have a little bit more freedom when it comes to that because you could say, okay, if I buy a Battle Styles booster box at $83 and I see a retrace, you know, how bad is that going to hurt me as a collector? If a Battle Styles booster box, which I think is unlikely, retraces down to, let's say, $70. As a collector, you might see that price and say, I don't care. It's a $13 loss, and I didn't purchase this as an investor. I bought it more as a collector. But as these prices for this modern product comes back down to earth and back to points where I think they deserve to be, and yeah, there's a lot of divide in the community right now. Should prices actually be this low? And I say yes. Actually, I think prices this low is really healthy for the hobby. And the reason I say it's healthy is because when you have a lot of uncertainty and you have a lot of just price explosions where modern product just literally goes to the moon right at release. We saw it happen with Evolving Skies. That at first, well, actually, you saw it even happen with like Battle Styles. Battle Styles creeped up, Chillin' Rain creeped up, and then Evolving Skies creeped up. It hit like that 180 mark, and thank God we're seeing it retrace. So I think price retraces are actually really healthy. And as bad and as hard it is to say is, yeah, are you going to use the term paper handed people in this hobby? Normally, you wouldn't say that because Pokemon was never really the question of the paper-handed people. It was always the collectors. And I'm a strong believer that there is no such thing as just a collector. It's always a combination of two things, the collector and investor. And the vesting just it comes along with the collecting aspect. And it's just like a beautiful added on bonus when you pick up something, especially when you're talking about modern. Because when you talk about modern, you are literally talking about the most risky, most uncertain thing in the entire hobby. And the reason why there is such a strong uncertainty for modern is because no one truly knows what Pokemon is going to do and how much of anything they're going to print or produce. And yes, channels like this, we love to debate this and we love to have conversations and will bounce back and forth the merits of yeah, what is Pokemon going to really do? But no one really knows. But that's the beautiful thing about this channel is this channel I've talked about it before. You have to dive real deep down the YouTube rabbit hole. So when you dive that far down the rabbit hole, channels like this, we have the luxury of speculating because that's all it is, right? It's speculating. And I believe that the viewers watching these videos, when it comes to the overall Pokemon knowledge, is a much higher class of investor opposed to like a lot of other like, pack ripping, opening up packs and just screaming every time you get like something that is very mediocre at best. So we have the luxury, like I said in this channel, and talking about speculating on Pokemon. And when it comes to modern, especially right now, yes, as for a collector, I do think we have great entry points right now because, like I said, the downside is probably not really as bad because right now I don't feel as nervous as I did even a couple months ago. You know, it's November now. Pull me back about 8 months ago. I was really nervous about modern and I didn't know where modern was going to go. If anything, I was actually scared, and to use the word scared in the hobby is maybe a little bit of an overstatement, but I was definitely afraid because I really truly didn't know where prices were going to go because all I did know was prices at release hitting 180 a booster box was not sustainable. It just was not. But right now, as prices retrace and then coming back to levels as a collector that I feel more comfortable with. Now, this brings up the future, right? And I think the big conversation with the future is you talk about, well, if we have all this product right now on the market, because whatever Pokemon did, if they were holding back product, if they were waiting to just release it and dump it all into the market at once, if that is what they were doing, I'll give Pokemon credit because it worked. It did exactly what everyone, the hypothetical situation was. Well, what would happen if Pokemon just flooded the market with product? Everybody said, well, the prices would drop. But the problem is right now is Pokemon can't produce fast enough to meet the demand. So by them, whether what they did artificially or not, holding back product and dump it on the market, really saw a lot of these prices retrace. But now we're getting to that very dangerous line. And why I say that is even though all this product exists on the market, we're seeing tons of wave of stuff. It does not mean that Pokemon has stopped printing. They haven't. Pokemon, those printers are still in the background and they're just pumping stuff out nonstop. So now the question becomes, does Pokemon start to really look at the market and start to say, okay, we have oversaturated the market with battle styles, we've oversaturated with chill and rain, because you know, whether or not we give Pokemon the credit they deserve as a huge, large company, they're not dumb. They understand what secondary market prices are. They understand what products are in demand over products that are not in demand. So if Pokemon from the out now as the corporate, because again, this is a small channel, we get the luxury of speculating. If they're going to look at some of this product and they're going to start to see, okay, battle styles, we've done our job. We've killed that product. Chill and rain, we've killed that product. If they start to look at those might not really be the products that they would want to just keep pumping more of into the system. They might start to pull back a little bit and look at areas of the market that are still overinflated. That's why currently still modern is so dangerous. So, yes, as the collector, you do have a little bit more, call it freedom, or you're not as worried. But yes, from the investor side, now that you're looking at the market, there can be a ton of uncertainty as an investor because as you look at, okay, well, what sets can really be next? Yes, Brilliant Stars is coming out. That is going to be the next expansion from Pokemon. And I'm sure right now a lot of those printers are just in the background pumping out Brilliant Stars as much as they can, whether it's booster boxes or ETBs or check lane blisters, 3-pack blisters. I don't know what the supply of Brilliant Stars is going to look like, but I bet you it's going to be way more than anything we've seen. It's going to be more than Fusion Strike. It's going to be more than Evolving Skies. And that's because Pokemon can really start to dedicate their printers. But now it brings up those questions, right? Well, what about the products that they can't meet demand? What about like Celebrations Ultra Premium collections? We're already starting to see Celebration products really retrace because like I've talked about before, Celebrations, while it is a very fun, very exciting set, and it is fun to open. I said it's one of the most fun sets to open that we've seen in the last couple of years, but now we're starting to see this massive supply. So it brings up the question, well, what booster boxes remaining in the Sword and Shield era are still even remotely valuable? And really, when you think about the remote valuability of still in play sets, because when you talk about modern, You need to talk about the playability. You need to talk about stuff that is just in rotation right now. And the two big sets that we haven't seen massive reprints for is Sword and Shield. Yeah, we've seen a lot of individual Sword and Shield packs and tons of products, but we haven't really seen a big reprint of booster boxes. And Rebel Clash, we haven't seen huge reprints of booster boxes. Now, listen, either one of those two sets, whatever sort of price resistance we're seeing, I know they're floating between like 160 and 190, and I've seen the prices bouncing anywhere in between there. But listen, if we see reprints of Sword and Shield booster boxes, and especially like Rebel Clash, if we see reprints of those booster boxes will crash hard. You think what we are seeing happen with Battle Styles was rough? We'll see the same thing happen with Rebel Clash, because most people, or I mean, shouldn't even say most people, I'd say a majority of people that were in the hobby, buying super modern stuff, Rebel Clash was definitely one of those sets they were probably around for or added positions to it. And even though those booster boxes have creeped up, man, like that is the super dangerous stuff. But then you got to keep pulling yourself back and saying, well, what products can Pokemon really start to reprint, and where is the demand? And you can say, well, maybe some of these ETBs, whether it's Darkness Ablaze ETBs, whether it's Vivid Voltage ETBs, Rebel Clash ETBs, we already saw a massive reprint of Sword and Shield base ETBs. Every single Walmart in the country had a huge restock of those. So now, where is prices still holding strong? Like I said, those ETBs can be next. But like I said, from the collector mindset, if all this stuff gets reprinted, all these ETBs, all these booster boxes, there were a lot of people who might have just missed good entry opportunities. And that's why it brings up this weird double-edged sword, like, bickering between yourself. You got a angel on one side of your shoulder and you got the devil on the other, and they're just at constant odds. And because you have the collector and you have the investor in you, like I said, we can start in the near term, start to see some real true entry points. And this brings up the question for the investability and for the investor mindset in the long term. It's okay, we get it. There's a ton of product on the market. But that's right now today in the point we're living in. So the question is, well, there's a lot of speculation. Is demand going to continue to be there? Because we're already starting to see a lot of, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to call it the paper handed people, the people that really shouldn't have been buying product in the first place, got in at super high entry points, thought, again, just those rocket emojis to the moon, and they thought prices were going to just keep going up forever. And if that was the case, if prices really truly did just go up forever and never ended, then that would have been the scariest, most dangerous thing ever. Because as prices continue to go up and become super unsustainable, this is the start of retrace. This is the start of market correction you're going to see. And I think that's really what this is. This is a market correction more than anything else. And the reason why I say it's more of a correction is because when you look at how many people were in the hobby in just, let's say, November of 2017 versus November of 2021, even with some people exiting the hobby, the demand is still higher. Now, if you're going to find me somebody out there that's going to say, no, actually, the demand in November of 2021 is far less than the demand in 2027 or 2017, I'm just going to tell you right now that's not true. The demand right now is still way higher than anything we've seen. So, anytime you have a flood of new collectors, new investors, or just people who maybe found a new love for the hobby, maybe something that they lost in the past and rekindle now, these price points are healthy. Now, are they healthy for people who have huge distributor agreements and over leverage themselves? Those people, that's a different conversation. It's probably not healthy for them at all. But as the collector side, it is healthy. Now, can it be healthy for the investability side? You can make the argument maybe. And the reason why I say maybe it is healthy for the investability side is because when you have people come in, buy product at high prices, get nervous, get scared, or like I said, shouldn't have been in the hobby in the first place, Because if you were buying all this stuff and you truly believed in it, and then you start to see massive retraces, you probably didn't do your due diligence in the first place. You had no true understanding of the market, no true understanding of demand, and really didn't even want to comprehend or just accept the fact that a lot of people were buying this stuff. But now, whenever you have a ton of people losing money, there can be a certain type of investor that could come in and scoop up a lot of stuff at relatively cheap prices. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you listen to this channel, I am definitely long on Pokemon. I don't believe that Pokemon as a collectability or an investability in the long term is going to go down. I can never get to that point. Now, in the very near term, in the very short term, yes, of course, there is going to be a ton of volatility in this market. And I've talked about it before. Pokemon as a whole, as the market as a whole, is extremely hard to time. And really, if you think about it, it's almost impossible to time. And I've already talked about in this video, we do not know what Pokemon is thinking. We do not really know what they're thinking, what they're doing, what their business strategy is, but we get to speculate. And that's the thing too, right? Is as you start to speculate, somebody is eventually going to be right. Now, you have to now pull yourself at back a little bit from modern. And I know for some people that is really easy. And for some people, that is almost like pulling teeth. When you pull back and you look at the market as a whole, when you look at the overall strength of the market, there is still a ton of strength there. And I'll give you some examples of places I've seen continued strength. The first October PWCC auction, we saw a lot of prices for a lot of cards sell at rock bottom prices. But I don't think it was so much the problem of a lot of demand leaving the market. I think there was a lot of uncertainty when it came to the actual new PWCC auctioning platform. But then when you look at, like, say, October's auction versus November's, there's still a lot of strength. And in fact, if you were just looking at PWCC, you would say, the market actually increased for a lot of cards, or at least there was more buying demand. And if you're following a lot of different eBay like auctions and stuff, buying pressure for a lot of this stuff is still actually very high. So that's all I want to do in today's video, and have a conversation with you guys. I want to get like a feeling of yours, because like I said, from the collector side, I do believe there's a lot of good entry points. And I'll say it again. The reason there's good entry points is because anytime you buy as a collector, you should already have, okay, what is the worst case scenario in my head? And I just don't believe that in 2020, 2021, the investor side came in there with that mindset of, okay, what is the worst case scenario? And for me, when I look at a Battle Styles booster box at $83, and I look at what do I think the worst case scenario is, and I could be wrong, you can see some kind of crazy crash down to $40. If we see booster boxes crash down to $40, you got to keep a couple things in mind. We have never seen that. That would be an absolutely new phenomenon. And not only would we never seen that before, we have even came close to like $40 a booster box. Now, is that possible? Anything is possible. There is no like what is not possible, but now it just comes to your risk for you as a collector and investor. And you start to look at the hobby as a whole and say, okay, where is like my risk tolerance? And I told you, I'm feeling really comfortable right now in the hobby opposed to any other time. So yeah, that's just what I wanted to talk about. I want to look over at the chat. So I haven't been following the chat. I know I've been rambling now for however long this stream's been going on, for 20 minutes. I haven't read the chat once. So if you guys have asked any questions, go ahead, shoot them at the bottom of the chat now. This way I could see them. But guys, I'm going to tell you right now, I can't pretend to know the market. All I can say is that I am more excited about the market today at the end of November 2021 than I was in March of 2021. The uncertainty that was in the market scared me. And this is a crazy thing. The uncertainty, while it doesn't scare me now, for whatever reason is scaring a large majority of people, because I'm not a fool. I can see Reddit groups, I can see Discord groups, I can read people's comments. I see people saying, I'm done buying Pokemon. And I laugh reading some of their comments. I'm like, man, you weren't done buying Pokemon. We weren't done buying Evolving Skies at 180, but now that Evolving Skies is 100, you're done. Like, you know, Godspeed. Good luck on your journey. But, you got to ask yourself the question, like, what's the bottom? And I don't know. I can't pretend to tell you what the bottom is. I think we're getting close to it. I don't think we're there on a lot of products. I think on some products we're getting close. You know, I don't know how long battle styles can realistically sit at this $80 mark. You have people buying battle styles booster boxes from distributor at prices greater than $80. Like, you have, as a collector, great entry points. And like I've said, the beautiful thing about being a collector is that being a collector, investing just comes along with it. They, like, you can't have one without the other. They just piggyback against each other. So, but I'm gonna try to read the chat, see if I see any good questions. PSA holding 50%. So Pokemon Catcher 25 said PSA holding 50% of the market hostage. You know what? I don't know. See, when you talk about 50%, I'm not really sure what you mean by that, but you could mean a lot of things. Are they holding back a lot of vintage cards that are the more undervalued stuff, keeping those inflated? Yeah. When you talk about like unlimited stuff, when you talk about like Jungle, Fossil, Team Rocket, heavily mass produced sets, especially sets that people had huge binder collections. And I've talked about it before, sets that you always see come up for sale, all those, like anything from 1999 to 2000, all those sets, ton of product always comes available. So yeah, is it possible that PSA is holding a lot of that stuff, keeping it up? Yes. Some of this ultra modern stuff, not really. And the reason why I say not really is because PSA turnaround times have sucked for a long time. You're talking over a year on some of these products. And then when you look at when PSA really closed their door, and yeah, sure, technically their doors are still open at like the $600 tier and the $300 tier, and now we're down to the 150. So yes, of course the doors are not closed. But for a lot of modern sets, when you talk about Fusion Strike, when you talk about Evolving Skies, when you talk about Chill and Rain, when you talk about Battle Styles, when you talk about like even Vivid Voltage, November 2020, you do Champions Path, you could do Shining Fates, uh, Celebrations, all those sets fall within that crazy turnaround time of PSA where their doors really were closed. And yes, there's always cards and sets that are worth it to send at $150. You can't really say that all the time, but recently, yes. Evolving Skies, you saw some cards, but the majority of it, the bulk of these modern products, there are not cards worth it to send at $150. So yes, when he says PSA is artificially holding back the doors to 50% of the Pokemon market, when it comes to modern, it's probably way more. When you talk about like a Celebrations, and even Celebrations, probably there's no cards worth except for the gold, cards for maybe the ultra premium collection. But when you start to peel back some of these sets, you're like, yeah, it's probably way more than 50%. But then there is still like this huge bulk of demand. And I want to say that the demand is stronger in like this mid-tier stuff. When you're talking, and I talk mid-tier, I'm talking late e-reader stuff, Nintendo era, Diamond and Pearl, Heart Gold, Soul Silver. You think about what we saw happen with Level X's recently, what we've seen happen with Primes recently. There are a lot of those cards out there that were probably in people's binders collections that just really didn't have time for the market to develop enough for those cards. And don't get me wrong, there was always a demand for Level X cards and Prime cards and, a lot of these e-reader sets. But as that market really started to develop and explode, people started to saying, okay, I got a lot of these cards. I'm going to send them away. Now, do I think the huge flood of bulk returns we're going to see from PSA are going to be all level X's and prime cards and, legendary cards from Heart Gold, Soul Silver? No, I don't think they're going to be like those type of cards. But as the market and the demand and the hobby continuously changes, I'm a strong believer in that those are the areas people are going to start to flock to, because people right now are going to flock to the areas that they think are undervalued. And when I look at different areas of the market, different subsections, I'm always constantly flocking to those areas as the more undervalued areas. Now, is PSA still holding this area back? Yes. And like I said, or I didn't say, but the comment said that PSA is artificially holding back 50% of the market. Now, this can be one of those things that can take years to really play out. And the reason why it's going to take years to play out too is because when you talk about like weeding out the market, you have to talk about weeding out the market on a high end. And the high end is PSA 10s. And guess what? CGC 9s, no matter how much people love CGC, no matter how much better their slabs are than PSA with no frosting opposed to frosting, turnaround times, all this stuff, it doesn't change the fact that there are just people out there that want the best possible condition card, and that is a PSA 10. Whether or not you can justify a PSA 10 versus a CGC 9, it doesn't matter. So it's going to take a long time to weed this stuff out. Now, we're already starting to see a huge flood of slabs come back. You're looking at just every day, especially now that we're getting closer to like that October 2020, November 2020, December 2020 time period, and of like the Pokemon hype. Because when you look at when Pokemon and the grading frenzy was really at a peak, it's like those 3 months. And we're not there yet with PSA bulk. Yes, I know like some of the third party graders like the Ludkins and like Gem or Graded Gem, like those people, yeah, like some of their returns from those timelines. But for the greater majority of people just sending cards themselves, we're not quite there yet. And I'm not 100% what that backlog is going to be. I think it's going to be a lot more of that Wizard of the Coast era, or maybe some really super like chase card modern stuff. And realistically, any Charizard. You name a Charizard, you name the set. If there was a Charizard in it, yep, boom. That is going to be one of those cards that's going to come back. So great question, though. Let's see. What areas? So AJ Kang said, what area is currently undervalued? AJ, I think there's a lot of undervalued areas. Uh, I don't think the areas have changed much. I think it's still going to be the areas you that you could already start to find find very attractive areas you think have a lot of potential. I've talked about it before. Areas that have a lot of potential, and I'm not going to like beat a dead horse, but definitely late e-reader sets, Expedition, Quapolis, Skyridge, super undervalued. Early Nintendo sets, undervalued. Any any Gold Star set, with the exception of Gold Stars, the market has already made it to those Gold Stars, but there's a lot of hollows in those sets that are still completely undervalued. Just the other day, I watched one of Z&G's auctions ended. It was the Dark Hypno from Team Rocket. It was like a CGC 8. Card was real nice, didn't have a lot of issues at it. And that card sold for like $40. The Dark Hypno in Team Rocket Return. Did I say Team Rocket? I meant Team Rocket Returns, but the Dark Hypno in Team Rocket Returns, yes. Obviously, the Gold Stars in Team Rocket Return, and $50,000 Torchics, and the Mudkips and the Trekos. Yeah, everyone knows the Gold Stars, but the hollows in those sets, when you can pick up a true like grade 9. Obviously, PSA is again tough because PSA is closed, but let's just talk about like undergraded CGC slabs, CGC 9s for Team Rocket Return hollows. You're talking packs that cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Those are areas I think are undervalued. Now, that's just to answer that question. All right. Let's see. You said Booyah said, got about 100 cards left to come back. Don't expect them back for a long time. Got those in right before the shutdown. Oh man, you say Booyah. If you got it in like right before the shutdown, and especially if you got them in at that bulk tier, that $10 tier, we can be talking 2 years. And that's the crazy thing about PSA. PSA is ramping up 40,000 cards a day or whatever they say they're grading. Didn't they say like right before they finally said, okay, we raise our hands up, we're throwing up the white flag, and right before that huge return, they were getting like as many returns in a week as they were in 3 months. the like those final submissions, because you got to keep in mind there's somebody out there. I don't know who they are, but there's one person out there who their bulk submission was the very last bulk submission that PSA opened up and scheduled for grading right before they shut down. Who knows who that person is? But whatever that bulk submission is, however long it's going to take for that thing to get graded, could be years. And this is a crazy thing. And that's what that earlier comment says, is really when you think about just Pokemon as a whole is handcuffed. And that is why we saw some of these other grading card companies really develop and really like, would CGC has been as popular as they were? Probably not. Forget about even Beckett. Beckett's hasn't been an option forever. Their turnaround times are just as bad as PSA. So, all right, let's see. Basic Trainer said all my mid-era cards are at PSA. All right, well, there goes what I just said. But I don't think a lot of people have those mid-era cards at PSA. I think that number is actually way less than we think. Let's see. And again, guys, I kind of just jumped to the bottom of the chat. So if you got a question that I passed over, just rewrite it. Cheval says, looking at how those mid eras are hard to find, raw to mint, near mint, and boxes are scarce, I'm ready to bet once all said and done, pop will still be low compared to other areas. Yeah, and when you talk about pops, everything's subjective, right? Everything is relative. What is truly a low pop? And it's a lot of just looking at sets, looking at, okay, how much of this stuff do I think is on the market? And the way you got to look at this is you really have to just like spend a long time. Go to, just like you went down the YouTube rabbit hole to get to this channel, you got to go down the eBay rabbit hole. Start to look at sold listings, start to look at active listings, start to look at how much of this stuff is really on the market. And Nick from Old School Pokemon was on the channel. Hope you guys got to catch that live. I had a great time doing that. Me and him talked for like 4 hours. It went absolutely nuts. But we had a great conversation. And when I talked about like Skyridge, when I look at, okay, how much of this commons, uncommons could probably hit the market in the future, I look at like the Pikachu common from Skyridge. I look at that as like a baseline because yes, that is a common card, but that was a card that was always worth it to be graded. So when you look at cards that are baselines, you can get a decent understanding, but it doesn't mean that there's not a ton of those cards out there. But you got to find cards that you could at least like say, okay, if there's this much of this common Pikachu and this card's been worth it to grade now for years, how much is this other stuff eventually going to hit the market? So let's see. Yeah. Levi said, hey, everyone, give this man a like. No, I appreciate it, guys. If you could hit the like button. Got 42 people watching right now. Professor Oak said, or let's see. Nick is awesome. Yeah. So, Poke Knowledge, I want to know what you have bought recently. Anything fun? Let's see. Yeah. So I did buy something that's, I don't know about fun, but I finally pulled the trigger and I got one of those Japanese, the stamp boxes. That's on my recent purchase list. And I don't really know what's going to go on with that, but I finally pulled the trigger. I bought so I just like, this is my recent eBay purchases. And as you can see, like they're just all reverse hollows, commons, uncommons from Skyridge. Then like this is all yesterday. So I had a bunch of commons. So this is the Blastoids from Expedition. So this is like one of the cards I bought yesterday. I paid $20.50 for it. Expedition Blastoids. Now there's two Blastoids in Expedition. There's like number 36, and that's more like the cartoonish Blastoids in Expedition. And then there's number 37. And the 37 one is the Blastoids in Expedition where he's underwater and like half of his head is exposed underwater. And then like, but you can still see his body and he kind of looks like a tank running through the water. So that was like a card I just bought yesterday. So I'm not going to like talk about all my purchases, but I'll talk about today and yesterday. So I bought the stamp collection. bought a couple reverse hollow Skyridge and then that one expedition card. And I always like cards like that. You know, it's not the first card I own of that set, but I look at cards that I think eventually people are going to want to buy, and that's one of them. Now, like I said, as you dive deeper down the rabbit hole and you start to look at these cards, you start to really appreciate the artwork. And for Blastoids artwork, now you could probably talk about a lot of different Blastoids cards, but that is definitely one of them that I like. Now, that's a more vintage Blastoids artwork. Now, talk about like a modern day Blastoids artwork. Well, I like Cosmic Eclipse. So, what's a nice Blastoids card? Because, yes, I will do whatever I can to mention Cosmic Eclipse in every single video that I ever make on this channel. And when you look at like, okay, I like the more alternative artwork or for the Blastoids Piplup. I think that's like a great modern Blastoids artwork. So, either way, uh, hi, question. What other sets other than Rocket Returns do you see as undervalued on CGC 8.5s? I I think I kind of just mentioned it a little bit, but any of the Gold Star sets that have hollow, I mean, they all have hollows and obviously, but like Crystal Guardians, yes, like there's so you have the Crystal Charizard or the Crystal Guardians Charizard in there. So it's a sorry, I'm like not I'm having like a little bit of a stroke right here, but like okay, let me go pull back a little bit. Like Crystal Guardians, yes, another Gold Star set. But when you look at like the Delta species Charizard that's in that set, Lightning type Charizard, yeah, that card definitely like creeped up a little bit in price and it's holding pretty strong at like a $600 range for high end. But when you look at, okay, that card has already had a lot of like attention to it. But look at like you know what? We're going to do it. We're just going to do another Blastoids card. Crystal Guardians, the Blastoids, the Delta species Blastoids in that set in both hollow and reverse hollow. In fact, I kind of like the reverse hollow for that Crystal Guardians Blastoids Delta species card probably a little bit more than the actual hollow version. And that is another example of just cards in sets that are surrounded by gold stars. And now, again, Crystal Guardians kind of even surrounded a little bit more. You got, uh, like I said, gold stars and that Charizard. So when you look at that Delta Species Blastoise, which is freaking awesome artwork, that is an example of a card that is undervalued because it's surrounded by other stuff. And like that's the type of stuff I look for. Cards that I'm like, okay, I can see people eventually starting to like these sets and really liking these cards. So, that is just like that's pretty funny though that I managed to keep mentioning Blastoids. I wish Australian Blastoids was in the chat. He would appreciate me bringing up Blastoids. Uh, but again, there's a lot of different undervalued sets, and everything's relative too, right? When you talk about undervalued, you got to look at okay, what is the pack price, and not only what is the pack prices for a lot of these sets, what is the real true like EV? What is the true expected value? Because the true expected value for some of this, like a lot of those gold star sets, look at I don't know, a Deoxys as a perfect example. You can talk about a card that have tens of thousands, a pack that's worth tens of thousands of dollars, or a pack that's worth like $25. It is crazy when you look at some of these sets and EVs to them. And so when you look at undervalued stuff, you say, okay, like maybe eventually people will want to start looking at some of this stuff. Now, who knows when that will really be? And who knows if, people will ever go to this kind of stuff. When you look at like, think of I don't know, like a diamond and pearl set that's like I guess like Stormfront would be a good example of underrated set. Yeah, the chase cards in that set are definitely like the cards everybody thinks about. When you think about Stormfront, you think about okay, you got the secret rare Charmander, secret rare Charmeleon, the secret rare Charizard because it's the reimagined Arita artwork from the original base set. But then when you look at, okay, well, what's the level X of that card? Well, the level X of that card is the best level X in all of Diamond and Pearl because it's a Raichu. And anytime you have a Raichu card, it's going to be the best card of the set. So when you look at like a Diamond and Pearl Stormfront, but then you say, okay, what is a Stormfront pack selling for now? Probably like right around that $100. When you start to look at the hollows in that set and they're selling for $1 or $2, maybe, maybe not. I mean, the question is, sets can only be undervalued if they're going to have potential upside to it. And now when you look at potential upsides, you say, okay, well, will people only ever want the chase cards of this set and never want anything else? If they never want to go after any of the hollows or some of the other stuff, then yeah, maybe they'll never be like undervalued to that stuff. But when you start to look at some of this more niche stuff, and you start to like dive in and you start to just appreciate it, start to appreciate the artwork, start to, like, I don't know, EX Hidden Legends, right? Okay, there's a good example. There is no gold stars in that set, right? But it's still, you have like the Dark Celebi in that set. There is only one dark card in that entire set, and it's the Celebi. It's still like an awesome card. I don't know. There's a lot of like random things you got to just start talking about when you start talking about undervalued stuff. All right, question. You guys think someone like the CD promos are overvalued? They look really nice, but the pops are high and there are still tons of raw mint copies out there. CD promos are one of those things that there's just being Japanese CD promos, there's a lot of Japanese cards out there still on the market. Who knows how long, if ever, all that stuff makes it to the English market and when it starts making itself like available for grading. Now, if you're going to go after stuff like that, you got to go after like definitely the more high end, high grade type cards, because really in the long term, when people start to want to pick up cards like that, it's only going to be on the high end, nothing else. Where's the Cosmic and Unbroken and Team Up ETBs at Pokemon? Yeah. So it's funny. So who wrote that? Kevin Clare said, where's the Cosmic and Unbroken and Team Up ETBs at Pokemon? So right now, this is my like early theory, is that Pokemon is going to go back and reprint some of these older ETBs. And I don't know if you guys caught Mason's recent video where he talked about getting a very small wave of Guardians Rising. And when you think about, okay, we saw 2 Sun and Moon, like, decent reprints. We saw Sun and Moon base ETBs. What's the next set in line? Guardian Risings. Now we're starting to see a little reprint of Guardian Rising. Can you imagine if Pokemon just goes and reprints all the ETBs and then works its way up to the, end of the Sun and Moon block? When you talk about end of the Sun and Moon block, and you're talking like some of the real monster sets, when you're talking, Team Up, Celestial Storm, Unbroken Bonds, Cosmic Eclipse. When you're talking about those sets, you start talking about ETBs. Ooh, that would be a big conspiracy tin hat theory. But guess what? Pokemon wants to drive some demand. Those are the ETBs you reprint, because you look at ETBs right now and what the prices for like a Team Up or Cosmic Eclipse Unbroken Bonds ETB is. They're not cheap. They're pricey, man. Let's see. Reverse Hollow Dark Celebi is OP. I have tons of Rebel Clash. I hope it goes up in value someday. You better hope you don't get a reprint of that stuff, man. Poke Knowledge. Do you get PSA set registry set up yet? No, I haven't. And I'm not a good like old school Pokemon was on the podcast just last week, and he was saying like, yeah, he's more old school. He uses spreadsheets and stuff. You want to know where my spreadsheet is for my PSA set registry? It's all up here, and it's a jumbled mess. It's, if they can make a cartoon of how my brain is like sorted through, it's a mess. So no, I haven't set up like a PSA set registry yet. All right, what's your Pokemon team? Top 6 Pokemon, go. That's a great question. Got to go with just the base set starters because I'm a red and blue guy through and through. So I'm gonna go Raichu, Charizard, Blastoise, Venusaur, and that's it. I only need 4, and maybe I'll add in Gyarados, but that's it. Maybe I'll go 5. I'll take on the entire Pokemon League myself. Victory Road, forget about it. For those old ETBs collectors out there, where they can give us money. Yeah, right. Old ETB collectors did very well. Who would have thought? So Cheval said, where do those packs come from, though? They had them sitting in a factory and repackage them, or they reprint the whole Sun and Moon block. Now, I don't know if you guys saw this, but it was all over like Pokemon Twitter and stuff. And I don't know if you guys watch or follow Pokemon TCG drops on Twitter, but there was a lot of like Dollar Generals got Roaring Skies blister packs, or not, but just like the individual blisters. And I don't know if you guys ever been in like big factories, and I've been in like, or not big factories, but big warehouse distribution centers, and I've been in like 2 in my entire life, and one of them was just rows and rows of pallets, like up to the ceiling. So it is possible. Now, while it is extremely unlikely, it is possible that all these forklifts, and especially like a big distributor like Dollar General, because you got to keep in mind when it comes to Pokemon stuff, they're not keeping the Pokemon cards with like the perishable items. It's not with anything that's going to go bad. All this stuff is non-perishable. It gets tucked away in the corner of a warehouse. Now, is it possible that like all the other pallets that were in front of it eventually got moved, exposing some of this Pokemon like pallets sitting in the background, and then those pallets were broken down and shipped across the country to a bunch of different Dollar Generals? I'd say yes. That is the only thing that makes sense to me. Why Roaring Skies, single pack blisters made it to Dollar General like as recently as this week of recording this video. And it's November 29th, 2021. And yes, we still saw Roaring Skies blisters in Dollar General. That's the only thing that makes sense. There's no way that this was just a small reprint that Pokemon did just for Dollar General. No way. All right, and Mewtwo, hell, all right, Charizard, Blastoise, Venusaur, Raichu, OGs. Yeah, I'm predictable, huh? Levi said, I'm 32 and love Pokemon cards. Don't worry, Levi, I'm 34 and I love Pokemon cards. So you don't gotta feel bad for yourself. Ditto, fuck the world. It can be any Pokemon. Sorry, I meant Steam Siege blisters. It was hilarious. Finally caught alive. Hey, what's up, SDC? My warehouse is a 10 by 10 room, and stuff gets lost behind boxes all the time. Yeah, isn't that kind of funny though? Like, especially modern Pokemon cards, the investability of modern, and that's kind of what like today's video is. And that brings up another, kind of segue into this too, is if Pokemon Modern does have a lot of entry points, a way it could have more entry points in the very near future is people that started to accumulate huge collections of this stuff that is no longer in print. And when I say no longer in print, I'm talking like the end of the Sun and Moon block, because yeah, that stuff isn't really coming on the market. And we're already starting to see like very minor retraces in some, like a very small amount of the Sun and Moon product, and some of those being like team up. That's probably like the only product. And Danny Phantom just recently did a video talking about team up booster boxes retracing from like 800 to 700. A lot of that could be people just trying to pull some profit out of Pokemon, because listen, if anybody bought team up booster boxes, it'd be very hard to lose money on those unless you were that sucker that bought them at 800 for a booster box. But if you were the guy buying them for like 100, you probably did okay. So all right. RN said, is there a point to buying modern sealed product when you can just buy PSA 10 modern cards? I doubt people will go out of their way to go back and grade junk modern cards. So this is my thing. That is a great comment, and I think it could have a lot of validity to it in the future. But right now, please don't go out and buy PSA 10s of any modern card. if you're going to go, that route, and you're going to do it as a collector, not as an investor and the, flipper mentality. If you're going to go after and you're going to say, okay, listen, I want this modern chase card in a PSA 10. I want it for my personal collection, and I don't care about it anything other. Do me a favor. Please don't buy the PSA 10 card of that, because it is not worth it right now. I would not recommend anybody buying PSA 10s of modern. If you want to go that route and you do want to have it, be patient. Buy that card raw at a extremely cheap price opposed to the PSA 10. There's tons of the stuff out there, especially for modern. Get yourself a nice minty copy. Make sure it's PSA 10 contender. Maybe even get two of them or at PSA 10 price, probably buy four of them. Get four of them. Tuck them away, put them in a penny saver, put them in your top loader, and put them on that eventual PSA submission pile whenever that day may come. Because if that's what you're going to do, please don't go out by. And so to answer your question, no, I don't think it is worth it to buy PSA 10s of modern cards. In my opinion, am I going to go buy a PSA 10 versus like a sealed booster box? I don't know. It's depends really what you like at that point. Now, as a collector, now this is up to everybody. What type of collector are you? Are you that sealed collector? Are you the kind of guy that likes to have one booster box of every set? Then you know what? Here's some of your buying opportunities. Here's some really like not entertaining, but like very nice entry points for a lot of this product. And like I said, there's got to be a bottom to some of this. Who knows where the bottom is, but now this is where your risk tolerance is really going to come in. So, all right. Ernesto said, question, would you ever consider selling everything off to buy a trophy card? If the opportunity arose, would you trade all your cards for that one? Also, what is your dream trophy card to own? Okay, so I've talked about this in other videos, Ernesto. I believe that trophy cards is such a strongly manipulated market. And I think the reason why trophy cards is really a manipulated market is because it took a while for people to take a card that no one has ever heard of. And that's what a lot of trophy cards are. They're cards that people had never heard of, didn't win them themselves, and now had to equate tons of value to them. And those are cards that have scarcity value to them opposed to more the organic like demand to them. So when it comes to trophy cards, and don't get me wrong, there's some nice little trophy cards that if you guys want to add to your collection, you can. There's a lot of different tiers when it comes to trophy cards. You go from like, just real low end trophy cards, and then you can go all the way up to the tippity top of like the most manipulated part of this hobby. So I would not trade. To answer your question, no. There's not a single trophy card that I would sell my entire collection to obtain. It just wouldn't be worth it for me. So, and that's due to a lot of things. That is a different video. That is a huge rant. And if anybody wants to like really question me on it, we can go back and forth. And I'll tell you why the trophy card market is way more manipulated than anybody actually thinks. Booking knowledge. Celebrations Lance's Charizard V promo. PSA 10 sold this evening for 215. Too much question mark? Yeah. Is the sky blue question mark basic trainer? $215 for chances Lance's Charizard V. Oh my god. $215. But you gotta keep in mind, I was gonna say somebody was dumb enough to grade that card at $150, but I guess you can't call them dumb, huh? Because they sold that card for $215. I guess we're the dumb ones. Because I'll tell you right now, there'll probably never be a chance in hell that I'll get 75 or 65, I should say $65 for Lance's Charizard V. Oh my God. So you know what? I would like to call that person stupid, but I can't. We're the stupid ones. We're not the ones getting $65 profit on Lance's Charizard V. But no, that is not a good buy. I feel bad for and it brings up that crazy question. We talked about it before. Who the hell are these people? Who's buying a Lance's Charizard V PSA 10 for $215. Like, what is the future upside to that card? But, crazy. All right. I told my wife I would get off. I wouldn't stay on super late, so probably gonna get off in like 5 minutes, but I'll try to answer some more questions. So Chewy and Annie says, I believe having diamond hands comes from this. I'd rather open my sealed Pokemon in my mind thousands than open at once and feel horrible. That's the thing about modern too, is it's all, I can't even say that about modern though, can you? Pokemon in general, Pokemon's always about the chase. It's never not been about the chase, but there's definitely a ton of risk that comes with opening product, especially modern. And the crazy thing about modern, which just doesn't get brought up enough, and I think it's a valid conversation when it comes to the individual collector. When you talk about the hobby as a whole, rarity of cards means nothing. But when you talk about some cards that you have to open 1,500 packs to pull one card, like that is the odds. The chances of pulling that card, you personally, is so scarce. And when you look back and you look at like chase cards of sets, when you look at gold stars, 1 out of 72 packs, when you look at the non-hollow Umbreon from Pop Series 5, 1 out of every 40 packs, when you look at the uh, Charizard from base set, it was about a 0.8% chance. So you had an odds of about 1 per booster box, definitely like 1.5 per 2 booster boxes for base set Charizard. Like when you look at it that way, the chances of pulling these chase cards for modern stuff is super hard. But that's the thing too. But as the hobby as a whole, is it super rare? No, because there's so many of these packs being open. Excuse me. That was a good sneeze though. But yeah, I understand what you're talking about, that you don't want to, that you rather have diamond hands and not open your own product. I own 45 Steam Siege blister packs. I bought them from 5 Family Dollar stores last year. Okay, I don't know what to tell you. Like, good. I don't know. Why did you do that? I guess like if you wanted 45 Steam Siege blister packs, like if it makes you happy, I'm happy for you. But you probably could have just last year Steam Siege booster boxes. Did they creep up to like the $200 mark at that point yet, or were they still at the 150? So I feel like if you wanted Steam Siege that bad, you could have just still, even at $150, probably overpaying for Steam Siege last year, but probably would have been better off just buying one Steam Siege booster box at 150 opposed to paying whatever the dollar store price is for 45 packs. I'm guessing dollar store is either like $3.25 a pack or $4 depending on the dollar store. But if you're happy with those, I'm not gonna say anything. Like, go for it. All right, Professor Oak said thoughts on new character cards. I like character cards in general. New character cards, pretty badass. The Mimikyu that they just released, I saw that artwork. That's nice. Charizard, nice. Or the Leon with Charizard is pretty awesome. Like, even I've always liked it. Even going back to Cosmic Eclipse, and I'll do it again. See how I did that? I just, no matter what, no matter where the conversation starts, I'll bring it right back to Cosmic Eclipse. But like Red Pikachu, one of the best character arts ever made, and probably will always be the best one. And then even if you guys are like big Diamond and Pearl fans, like I don't know if you watch like the Pokemon TV show, like season 10 was Diamond and Pearl. It had Dawn with Piplup. Like there's the Dawn with Piplup trainer card. Like that's an awesome one. So big fan of full art trainer card or character cards, I should say. So, all right. Professor Oak says, I got a free special delivery Bidoof from Pokemon Center, graded it for the 150 and sold for 700. Easy money. Yeah, right, man. Good for you. Like, special delivery cards just in general is just easy money. You think about like, at least, so special delivery Bidoof is a little bit different. It was like more call it lottery system where Pokemon would send you an email and you'd have to just say, yes, I was interested in this card. But the crazy thing is they didn't even send that email to everyone. You had to be on their mailing list, and like just a bunch of little things where the special delivery Pikachu was just a free for all. You wanted to spend $20 on Pokemon Center, you got one of those bad boys, and it was around for a week. And it just, whatever reason, I don't know if people didn't know what was happening, if people didn't want them, but spend $20 and special delivery Pikachu for a while was just that. I think that was probably like the first, call it free for all for one modern card, especially modern promo cards we saw. And that definitely like helped kick off the modern Pokemon boom. Was that you could almost say that that special delivery Pikachu was like almost like the spokesperson of this crazy boom. And when those prices went crazy, we should have all looked around and said, yeah, there's some shit going on that doesn't make any sense. Let's see. I just watched YouTube booster box opening when I want to open one for my own. Yeah, right. You know how many times I've watched PokeRev open his Skyridge booster box? Way too many times. Let's see. Cheval says, basic trainer, I feel you. I also believe to collecting what you like. Stock days are long gone for a while. Yeah, man. This is going to be a nice restructuring of the hobby. And listen, I already said it. I am long on Pokemon. If you don't want me to say I'm long on Pokemon, you are just honestly listening to the wrong channel. And I've already said it before. If you've made it down the YouTube rabbit hole and you made it to this channel, you're gonna hear me be like excited about Pokemon. But this is nice. We're gonna shake out a lot of people. And one thing about shaking out a lot of these people somehow manage to still come back. And they're going to, if they're buying at high prices last month and they're still buying at high prices this month and they leave and they come back, guess what? When they come back, they're going to make the same mistakes again that they made the first time. Nothing's going to change. But if you're there scooping up all their product on the super cheap, when prices eventually do rise back up. And I don't know. I don't have a magic ball. I don't know if those prices are going to raise in 5 months, a year, or 5 years. But eventually, I do believe prices for Pokemon will rise in the long term. And if you're there and you're here right now, and if you make it through the downturns, and you actually are passionate, and you come out of the downturn stronger than you went in, I think in the long term you can do great. Now, this is that crazy thing, and this is going to be a little bit of a tangent. I'll try to bring it home as best I can. People love to compare Pokemon to like things that don't relate. They'll say like, well, you should probably be investing in stocks or the S&P 500 or invest in like, like more brokerage accounts, put your money into an annuity, do all this stuff. Sure, guys, go the more traditional routes. Listen, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Do not invest in Pokemon if you think that this is like your only investment strategy. No, this is at the end of the road. You know, max out your 401k contributions, max out your IRA. If you make too much money, have a backdoor IRA, have an IRA, have a mutual fund, have a brokerage account, do individual stocks. Fuck it, buy crypto. I don't care what you do. Have rental, pay off your house, don't carry credit card debt, don't do any of the stuff that is the obvious. Listen, but now that we got to that point, listen, I still think Pokemon is a relatively good investment in the long term. Whew, shoot me. Again, that's like, again, this is not, this is the part where I have to give the disclaimer. I'm not a financial advisor. Do not take my advice as it is. Like, I'm a guy talking about Pokemon. Like, does this need to be said? All right. Let's see. Both special delivery Pikachu and Bidoof received were 8 and 9s at best. That's rough. There are so many layers of gambling in this hobby. Receive stuff wrecked. Put the chase card and it's OC. Yeah, that's one thing nice about Pokemon. OC actually, like, there's OC collectors where, like, if it's sports cards, there's no sports cards collectors when it comes to OC cards. So that's one thing we have. Like, if it's a real tough OC. Now, this is a crazy thing too. Like PSA, that 9 OC, they've been very stringy about OC. I've seen a couple cards hit the market graded at like CGC 8s that definitely, or sorry, I said CGC, I meant PSA. Let me go back. A lot of PSA 8s that should have been PSA 9 OCs that weren't, but That is just a little tangent. Nicholas said, "Hey, Poke Knowledge, do you think a market for resealed booster boxes would be viable if people could choose their 7 hits from a set?" I don't think that would be fun. I would say no. I don't think anybody ever wants things that are resealed that have guaranteed hits. That just nah. That takes away the chase. I could understand how some people would want that, but it would just destroy any value to these big chase cards, right? Like if for Evolving Skies, if you could pick your booster box and have all right, for my 7 chase cards, I want 7 Umbreon alternative art cards. Then guess what? That Umbreon alternative art's going to crash because everyone could just do that. So no, I don't see that being a long-term viability at all. Wishy said, there were some very good deals over the weekend for booster boxes. Being able to pick up a Battle Styles, Chillin' Rain, Vivid Voltage, Evolving Skies for $100 or less. Loving it that these prices have finally come down. That makes 2 of us, man. I'm very excited about this too. Professor Oak said, 50th anniversary box will be a hologram set inside a USB stick. That would be pretty cool. I was wondering what your thoughts on Korean Pokemon cards quality rise. I've talked about this in a stream in the past. I'm not a huge foreign language collector. I think the Korean one, I don't know who shilled Korean Pokemon cards or where that came from, but Korean Pokemon cards came out of nowhere. Nobody ever talked about Korean, and then one day everybody was talking about Korean. I don't know who talked about it. I don't know why they talked about it. I don't think there's any long-term viability to Korean Pokemon cards. Sorry. But if you guys know where that came from, why people started talking about it overnight, I would like to know. All right. But guys, it's 10:02 here. I was going to stay on not for less than an hour. It's an hour and 6 minutes. But if you guys could do me a favor, hit the mute button, hit the pause button, whatever, hit the like button. It would really help me out a lot. Help grow the channel. Because I don't know if you guys have noticed, I've definitely seen a lot less Pokemon content out there on YouTube. I don't know if that's just a sign of the market as a whole. I was definitely busy. This was just Thanksgiving weekend. I did the close to 4-hour live stream with Old School Pokemon on Wednesday before Thanksgiving. But then obviously Thanksgiving Thursday, Friday, the weekend. Next thing I know, it's Monday. I was like, I got to go on the live stream. And this is so much easier for me. I don't have to do any processing. It's just record and hit end stream. But guys, listen, I appreciate every one of you guys. Thank you guys all for tuning in. I love the conversations. I love the chats. I hope you guys are having some good internal conversations in the chats too. But other than that, I'll catch you guys on the next video.